everybody take a folder. Please be seated.
Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai roi lo echsar. Bino desh sheyar bitzeini. Al mei menuchot yinahaleni. Nafshi eshovev. Yancheini b'maglei tzedek lema'an shemo. Gam ki elech b'geit salmavet. Lo hirara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha umishontecha, hema yenachamuni, taroch lefanai shulchan neged sorerai, Dishanta vashemen roshi kosi revaya, Afto vachesed yirdefuni, kol yemeh chayai, veshavti beveit Adonai, leorech yamim. We begin this morning with the words of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Kirachem av habanim richam Adonai al yire'av. Ki hu yada yitzrenu zachor ki afar anachnu. Enosh kechatzir yamav ketzitz hasadeh ken yatzitz. Ki ruach avra bo ve'enenu velo yakirenu od mekomo. V'chesed Adonai me'olam ve'ad olam al yire'av, v'tzidkato livnei vanim. A selection of the 103rd Psalm. As a parent has compassion for their children, God has compassion for those who show reverence. God knows how we are fashioned. God remembers that we are dust. The days of mortals are like grass. We flourish as the flowers of the field. A wind passes over them, and they are no more, and no one can recognize where they grew. But God's compassion is everlasting. God's kindness to children's children, to all the reverent ones, endures age after age, unchanging. From the beginning of Jewish history, our great teacher Moses himself seems to have been troubled with questions about the meaning of life and the mystery of death, and concluded, Hanistarot ladonai, the mysteries belong to God. There are limitations to our knowledge. There are things that our minds can't comprehend. And all we can do when we confront death is recite the traditional words, Adonai Natan, V'Adonai Lakach. The Lord has given and the Lord has taken. And we do our best to take steps forward with our lives. While admittedly beyond our limited power it is to understand any of the reasons why, we do have the ability to say how a person's life has affected our own. For as Moses himself assured us, Haniglot lanu ulvanenu, the revealed things belong to us and to our children. And we can speak about the impressions, the memories that Dr. Lawrence B. Metrick has left in our midst and in our hearts. a surgeon who operated until his late 70s and saw patients into his 80s. Remarkable. The ability to move forward does not happen quickly or easily, but we find a perspective in order to begin a search for comfort, a perspective to affirm all the good in his life and talk about how he lived. I believe a modern poem shares this thought. Not how did he die, but how did he live? Not what did he gain, but what did he give? Not what was his station, but had he a heart? And how did he play his God-given part? Not what was his shrine, nor what was his creed, but had he befriended those really in need? Not what did the piece in the newspaper say, but how many were sorry when he passed away? Was he ever ready with a word or good cheer to bring back a smile, to banish a tear? These are the units to measure the worth of a man as a man, regardless of birth. In the 23rd Psalm that I chanted just a few moments ago, the psalmist tells us of his deep faith, that Gam ki elech begeit sal mavet, lo irara ki ata imadi. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no harm, for you are with me. The loss of a loved one is like entering a deep valley, cut off from the bright sunlight. It can be a shadowy, gloomy place. No road of life can possibly detour around the valley. All of us must sooner or later walk through the valley of the shadow of death. But the psalmist wisely used the figure of speech of the valley to describe this experience, for a valley is open on both sides, and having entered into it, we're not to make it our permanent dwelling place. But rather, after we've lingered there for a while, we are to walk through it and out into the bright sunshine of life. Larry's loss has taken us into the valley of grief, and the inspiring memories that he has left will hopefully help you all traverse this valley and emerge once again into the bright sunshine of life. How thankful we all are for his life on this earth. He and Barbara were some of the earliest families of Congregation Beth Shalom, and it always had a special place in his heart. Growing up in an Orthodox home to immigrant parents, he understood the value of Jewish tradition, and their children celebrated B'nai Mitzvah with us just a few years before I got there, and always came to honor the memory of his parents, Isidore and Anna of blessed memory. He learned his amazing work ethic from his parents, which would serve him well in life, as well as in the lives of all his patients. In just a moment, you're going to hear from members of his beloved family, who better than those who knew him and loved him best should share the stories of his life. I do want to pause for just a moment to remember Barbara of blessed memory, married in 1960. The words used yesterday when I met with the family were that she was the love of his life. They were dedicated to each other, and I'm told worked as a great team. Their children shared with me that their answers from their parents were always the same. You couldn't go to dad if you didn't like mom's answer, and vice versa. They travel a lot together, mostly to medical conferences where they would stay on afterwards and enjoy time in the area, wherever that area would take them. They would often travel to Las Vegas with friends and bring their children. And they had a wonderful social network and enjoyed hosting in their home. And he was so caring towards her. I was told how much they enjoyed bowling together. They had special shirts and their team's name, the Plaster Casts. Let's take that in for a moment. David and Kim, Rob and Susan and Brett, we're so sorry for your loss. I was told of how proud he was of all of you. I know you'll miss him terribly, and we hope that you'll have a measure of comfort as you begin to move forward. At this time, I'd like to invite up Kim to share words on behalf of David, and then Susan to share her words.
Where do I begin? I guess at the beginning. Dad was born in October of 1929, in Brooklyn, New York. Dad was the youngest of three, brother Phil and sister Estelle. His parents were Isidore, Papa Izzy, and Anna Metrick, Mama Anna. His parents, our grandparents, immigrated from Minsk prior to World War I, avoiding Jewish atrocities. Many, as we all know, weren't as lucky. Papa Izzy and Mama Anna started their family together in Brooklyn, and off the Metricks were United States citizens. Our grandfather worked as a kosher butcher. Uncle Phil founded a worldwide shipping company, and Estelle married a decorated U.S. Army vet. Dad, well, he took a different turn. Being the son, a kid of a kosher butcher in the 30s and 40s, college wasn't an easy option. So his plan was to enter the Army and hope that the Army would pay for college and medical school. They did. While in the Army, he signed up as a medical paratrooper, triage at the front lines. He obviously loved the medical field. And although he did win the Sergeant York Marksman Award, probably a good thing for a surgeon to win, in learning how to paratroop, I remember asking him if he was scared on his first jump. He said, "I didn't have time to think about it. I turned around, asked my sergeant a question, and he just pushed me out of the plane." And then he just laughed. Dad was unflappable. He was a rock. He could deal with most anything, especially with people. Many of you here know firsthand how he was. When we asked him why he chose University of Wisconsin, Madison, he said, "I wrote a letter with an application and a couple of others that I had heard before, but Wisconsin admission called first, and I accepted. Then I hopped on a bus there with his duffels to Madison, Wisconsin for the first time ever. No college visits, no interviews, no writing 2 million essays. He was in. And then when he finished Chicago Medical School at Michael Reese Hospital, his internship in Dallas, and then residency back in Chicago, a great surgeon was born. Dad was one of the first orthopedic surgeons who committed to work exclusively in the North Shore of Chicago. It really wasn't called the North Shore back then. It was mostly all farmland. It was just very, very far north of Chicago, and your mom thought I was crazy. So he built a house, literally in the middle of farmland. Both my brother and sister were born in that house. This is our home, where our childhood memories were born and still live within us, and will forever. There's probably one question that people always ask themselves, and I'm sure they wonder why today. Why did patients have to wait 3 to 4 hours to see Dr. Larry in his office? The answer was quite simple. He just loved people. He loved talking to people, and he would make everyone feel like they were special. He would make 15 to 20-minute appointments, more than 45 minutes with each patient. And today, we are lucky if we get 5 full minutes. He loved people, he loved helping others, and thus the wait. In the end, no one cared. Well, maybe we did. We could go a week without seeing him. If Mom would let us stay up late, we could sit with him in the kitchen at midnight or at 1 a.m. when we had dinner. Then he was up at 5:30 and did it all again, and he did this for decades. I do remember when I was done with sports practice after school, I would drive to his office prior to dinner and homework. The waiting room was 50 people deep, but if you were a patient and called upon you, you would walk right in the door where the exam rooms were. I would walk through the crowd, the back door, to his personal office. I felt like having a backstage pass at a concert with people staring at me like we were VIPs. I would sit in his office and wait for him between appointments and just talk to him for a minute or two. He would ask me questions about my day and then say, "Sorry, I've got to go back to work." I would hang out with him for a couple hours. I remember those days like it was yesterday. So a funny anecdote was that we would be playing in the pool, and the next thing you know, someone's taking off their shirt or pulling down their pants for a steroid shot. Or at 3 a.m., someone calls and he's heading to their house to help them. That's who he was. He was everyone's rock. Dad's sole devotion to our mother, Barbara, was truly something to see. They met in Chicago on a blind date and never looked back. Dad was always quiet, calm, and always composed, unless you said something that he took as a slight of Mom. He then would look at you dead in the eye and say, "Metricks don't talk like that." And in an instant, it was over and done. You moved on. The best was that Mom was the queen of dirty jokes. Many of you remember that. And watching Dad's face as she told them was hilarious. His shock, but then he let it go. It was Mom. When Mom passed 70 years ago, you saw a piece of Dad went too. But his love for family and progress kept him strong and always thinking about moving forward. His grandchildren were the fuel of his life. When you would talk to him, you would get this list, his list, the exact same list every call. He would state every grandchild's name, tell us what they're doing, each of their accomplishments, and that they all turned out great, all because of our parenting. I truly hope that when he went to sleep for his final time, he knew that all of this originated with him and Mom. We are very proud and honored to have shared such a person with everyone. He was truly one of a kind. We will miss him deeply. All that he was about, his history, his path, what he built, what he was with us, all of his grandchildren, Jordan, Ethan, Asa, Matthew, Olivia, Kylie, and Grace, forever. He was the kindest and sweetest, most charitable person I've ever known. Simply the best. And I have a couple words. Sorry. So for those of you who don't know, David and I have known each other since I was 18. And Larry was truly a second dad for me. He loved me unconditionally and was my biggest cheerleader, gave the best hugs. Humble and kind. When speaking with him, the conversation always centered around you and not him, always asking about the kids and my work. He always instilled in me and everyone the importance of hard work. Although he worked until his 80s, he always said that he retired 10 years too early. And that's who he was. He was a devoted doctor, husband, grandfather, father, and, Dad, I'll miss you dearly. Your legacy will live on through all of us and your grandkids. You've taught us how to love unconditionally, talk without intention, care without any expectation or return, and for this, we're forever grateful. Take good care of yourself, Mom, Milo, and we love you very much.
Stand in.
Dad, I'm devastated, sad, and grieving. These feelings will never end as my love and now empty feeling I have for you will always be part of me. I'm also proud and grateful that somehow God chose me to be your daughter. I don't know why, but I sure got lucky having you and Mom as my parents. Growing up, you and Mom gave us all you had, yet still made time for each other. I didn't even realize the life lessons your daily routines would instill in me. You worked hard and long hours to make a comfortable living for your family, while Mom worked equally as hard and also long hours raising me, David, and Robbie. That's not easy. You managed so much in your life, a completely dedicated family man, surgeon, and friend to so many, and the best voice of reason and calm I've ever had in my life. You never lost your patience. You worked many nights until midnight, taking patient calls at any hour of the day and night, and never turned away patients who desperately needed appointments. While Mom would wait up for you to come home and made sure that you had a full, homemade, delicious dinner ready at the table. While this ritual may have seemed routine to you both, I felt daily the deeply commitment, love, and respect you and Mom had for each other. You gave us the best childhood, full of love and family. You taught each of us the value of working hard and making sure we put in the hours and make the best efforts, and we will get noticed to be successful in our jobs so we could provide for our own families what you provided to us. But you gave us so much more than material objects. You gave us the sense of family every day. When we were young growing up, no matter how many arguments between me and my brothers, you taught us all patience, kindness, forgiveness, and how to move on, and most importantly, love for each other. Just a few weeks ago, while in the hospital, when me and David were sitting by your bedside, we sat and talked for over an hour while you rested. We both thought you were sleeping, but right after David left, you told me you were awake and just resting your eyes, and how happy it made you feel that me and David were spending time together just talking about life. Family was everything to you. You and Mom settled in Chicago, but made sure that distance would not keep family apart. Mom's dad, Papa Jack, would spend summers with us from San Antonio. Although our aunts, uncles, and cousins lived in different states, you made sure that we were close with many annual visits to New York and Texas. You taught us the invaluable measure of family. If a family or friend was ever in need financially, you never waited to ask. You discreetly offered assistance they needed. You cared so deeply about everyone. When Mom got sick many years ago and you retired to take care of her, it was so easy to see the deep love and affection you had for one another. Mom had long hospital stays, yet you would be there with her from sunup to sundown, working with the doctors, making sure she was as comfortable as possible and getting the best care possible. No matter how sick Mom was lying in the bed, you couldn't wait to greet her with a kiss and a smile every morning, reassuring her that she would be okay. When Mom's life changed dramatically and she had to have dialysis appointments, you stood by her every step of the way, driving her 3 times a week and never leaving her side. Mom felt calm and loved by you at all times, and this is how you made your family feel too. I know how much you were hurting from the enormous loss of Mom, the love of your life. Every time you spoke about Mom, you choked up with tears and yet still had a smile, mentioning how grateful you were for all the wonderful woman that you married. I realized the deeper hurt, the deeper the love. I wanted to be around you all the time to let you know that you will be okay and that I will always be here for you. But the fact is, being around you comforted me and reinforced the love of family that you showed us, that I so needed to feel too. You are the strongest person I know. You're my dad, my best friend, my hero, the Iron Man, which inspires me to be more like you. Even though last year your back, legs, and neck were worsening, you never complained, yet I knew how painful it must have felt. After watching you take care of tens of thousands of patients over the years, working tirelessly, and then retiring so you could take care of Mom, I knew that it was your turn to let others finally take care of you. It was my honor to try and give back to you what you gave to me and to so many others. While some may think a simple trip to take their dad to the doctor's office or the bank or the grocery store is boring and a chore, I always looked forward to it. Any chance I would get to spend time with you, I would always jump at. You always made time together fun and interesting no matter where we were, and I always learned something new from you. I loved our weekend drives exploring the different towns to look at trees and flowers, houses, or just trips to Sam's Club and dinners at your favorite restaurants. I don't think a day went by without expressing how proud you were of your children and each of your grandchildren individually, and how happy you were to see everyone thriving. I always reminded Dad that his life teachings guided his family, and we were following in his footsteps that he laid out for us. Your grandchildren love you immensely. Not a day goes by without one or more of them calling you to see how you were doing. This always brought so much happiness and peace to your life to hear from them daily. Dad always treated our spouses from day one like they were his children. He loved Brett and Kimmy he would say, so deeply. Brett has always had fun discussing politics, family, current events, and Dad never let a visit go by without asking about his parents and how they were. Everyone around you loved and respected you. Even after one of your week-long hospital stays, when we joined you for dinner at your place, I'll never forget how all the residents simultaneously applauded and greeted you with smiles and all saying, "Larry's back," as you drove your scooter through the middle of the dining room. I can't put into words how much I will miss seeing your face, picking you up from your place, having weekend dinners with you, running errands with you, being with you at holiday dinners, hearing your voice every single day. I will miss telling Baxter we're going to see Grandpa and watching him run and jump around until we bring him in the car, and then watching him run up to your door, so excited to give you a kiss and sit on your lap and just be in your presence. I will miss going with you to pick out your annual flowers so you can plant them, which made you so happy. I don't know how to do life without you, as you are truly my best friend and my hero. I only know that I will always make my best efforts to replicate your values, kindness, and carry your spirit with me every day. I just told you a couple of weeks ago that you will be here for a long time because I can't live without you. You told me not to worry. When the time comes, that Mom and you would always look over me. I love you, Dad.
Jordan, Michael, Ethan, Asa, Matt, Olivia, Kylie, and Grace, you were all blessed to be his grandchildren, and how proud he was of all of you. You enjoyed the game room and birthday parties at your grandparents' home, and I hope that you'll continue to share the stories of your grandfather so that you can all help keep his memory alive. I'd like to pause once again to invite Kylie to share some words, followed by Olivia and then Jordan.
Dear Grandpa, I'm so beyond grateful to have shared 21 special years with you. Thank you for teaching me so much. From teaching me the value of always working as hard as you can, to watching the love you've had for each one of your family members, you truly inspire me every day. You are the most selfless, caring, loving, hardworking, and intelligent person there is. I aspire to be half the amazing person you are. You have made such a profound impact on each person you have met and truly left the world a better place. You have left such a large hole in our family, but I promise your legacy will live on forever. I will always take with me all that you have taught me about life and promise to make you proud. I will never forget any of the special moments that we shared together, from spending hours doing puzzles to sitting on your balcony admiring your beautiful flower garden. I will forever cherish the time that we had together. Every day spent with you is a better day, and I would do anything to relive any of these days. None of this makes sense, and I wish more than anything I can give you an extra big hug today, as I promised when I would see you next. But I know that you're looking down on all of us and are here with us today. I'm not ready to say goodbye, and I never will be. I love you forever and ever, Grandpa.
Growing up, we spent so much time at my grandma and grandpa's house. I've always heard that when you're feeling overwhelmed, to close your eyes and think of your happy place. And my happy place was their house on Cedar Court. And I know it was my grandpa's too. It was our parents' childhood home, and all of us grandkids sort of grew up there. My grandpa just talked about that house so much, so. Outside of his dedicated work ethic, my grandfather had so many amazing qualities and was a very charming man. Just the sound of his voice made me smile. I'll miss that New York accent. I'll miss the way he would struggle to get the punchline out over his own laughter, which made his jokes even funnier. His memory was way better than mine, even at 94, and his recollection of specific details always left me in awe. He was a spectacular storyteller, and his mind was always full of ideas which he thought up to try to make the world a better place. He was passionate about his beliefs and was never shy in sharing his opinions. He was truly one of my biggest supporters and was always so loving to my sister and I and all of us. He answered the phone every time I called him in the past 10 years, even if he was in the middle of speaking to the doctor or ordering dinner. He would pick up and say, "Hi, sweetie, can I call you back?" Tell me what he was doing. He accepted me for who I was and made it a point to tell me he supported the choices I had made, despite me not taking the same path as my other cousins, which truly meant the world to me. He understood me and made me feel truly loved and appreciated, and I will always be grateful for the relationship we had. We talked about the importance of love, laughter, and family, and he expressed so much gratitude for the joy that our family brought him. My grandpa had us laughing all the time with his outrageous sense of humor. After a dinner with Grandpa, Grace and I would always laugh on the way home about something funny he said, but we'll keep it PG here and save the jokes for the Shiva. While we could never expect what type of jokes or new ideas Grandpa would bring to the table that day, you could always expect a few things from him. He'd open the door with a loving greeting and a warm smile, dressed in his work clothes. Dress pants, button-down shirt, usually light blue, with a little pen in his front pocket. His face would always be freshly shaven from that morning with his hair combed back. Every spring, he would plant the same type of flowers, potted red geraniums. They were so beautiful. He drank hot Earl Grey tea every day and always took it the same way with cream and 2 blue sugar packets. When you asked him how his day was, he would usually explain the last thing he ate and how it was prepared, with a lot of detail. And he'd finish off his night with a scoop of pecan ice cream and a game of Rummikub. The pure love my grandfather gave me will live on in my heart forever, and I will always continue to spread it through laughter and telling stories about his life and our friendship together. I'll never forget how special my granddaddy was, and I'll always be his sweetie.
As I'm sure you've gleaned from either knowing Dr. Metrick personally or from hearing the words of his family, he had an insurmountable impact on his community. He worked tirelessly for his patients and family. And like my cousins, I grew up feeling like a celebrity due to his local recognition. I could never get through a school attendance call with someone saying, "Is your grandpa Dr. Metrick? He fixed my son's insert bone here." Despite his reputation, profession, and working hours, I feel lucky to say that I first and foremost knew Dr. Metrick as a grandfather. His personality always shined through his work ethic. He was kind, attentive, and funny. He had no ego. He was reserved but conversational. He loved tea with cream, lamb chops, fine art, and gardening in the summers. He read the paper every day and played Rummikub in his later years. Every day, even after retirement, he dressed in a collared shirt with a comb and pen in his front pocket. He picked up the phone after the first ring, talked about ways that he would make the world a better place if he was in charge, and felt grounded in his routine. My grandpa, despite the reputation that preceded him, remained steadfast as the image of a man who lived life at its essence. He worked hard, enjoyed the simple pleasures, and treasured time with his family. To know someone who is so true to themselves and yet selfless to others is the greatest blessing. I feel so honored to be his granddaughter, and I will forever thank God for being part of the family that he built.
We also want to pause today to remember Larry's siblings, Phil and Estelle, both of blessed memory. Only too often we find it difficult to emotionally grasp the truth of what the book of Ecclesiastes teaches us. Eit laledet ve'eit lamut, that there is a time to be born and a time to die. Intellectually, we know that Ecclesiastes is right. Emotionally, however, we find it difficult to accept the loss of a family member who is so close and dear. We know that there will be a void in your lives and an emptiness that will remain with you throughout your lifetimes. While we cannot stay the hands of time that ultimately bring the death of one whom we love, we can affirm that the passing of an individual does not mean his end. The memories of what Larry meant to family, friends, and patients will continue to live on in all of our minds and hearts. No words can lessen the pain that you feel today, or could fully express how much he is missed and always will be. Try with all your soul, strength, and might to focus on all he did and gave you with his love. Hold on to these thoughts, and most of all, hold on to each other in the challenging days to come. May the memory of Dr. Lawrence B. Metrick be forever a blessing to all who knew and loved him. Amen. Those of you who are able, we'll invite you to rise at this time as we conclude our chapel portion with the traditional memorial prayer. El male rachamim, shochein במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, את נשמת ליבל בן יצחק וחנה, שהלך לעולמו, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו. ענה בעל רחמים, הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, to the soul of Larry Metrick, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. May he rest in peace. Amen.
Could the pallbearers please step forward? Friends, if you're going to the cemetery, please go directly to your vehicles. Thank you.